The larger issue, absolutely. It is absolutely imperative for the police chief to be present in community.
Brian O'Hara has been nominated to be the next chief of the Minneapolis Police Department. He answered questions in front of the city council at his first public hearing on Wednesday. But where is he coming from, and what was he doing before this? I'm Nina Moyni, a reporter with NPR News. In early October, I visited Newark, New Jersey to speak with O'Hara's former colleagues and community leaders, activists about his work with the police department there. The two cities have a key similarity. Years before the U.S. Department of Justice began investigating Minneapolis police practices and use of force, it investigated Newark police for the same thing.
Before I became mayor, the city was being investigated by the DOJ around police abuse and misconduct. You know, some of the things that's happening around the country was happening obviously here in Newark.
O'Hara was a Newark police supervisor when the DOJ found Newark police engaged in unconstitutional policing and in 2016 created a reform plan called a consent decree. But what is a consent decree? It's a legal document that requires police departments to undergo a series of reforms through new policies and trainings. Mayor Ras Baraka was O'Hara's boss.
And Brian then became the captain that was in charge of making sure the things that we said we were going to do with the DOJ actually happened. On that side of it, he knows, exactly what constitutional policing looks like, what's needed, what we think is right and good. That kind of knowledge, a lot of police officers just don't have that.
The U.S. Justice Department launched an investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department after an officer killed George Floyd. Minneapolis police are still waiting for the DOJ's findings and could negotiate their own consent decree.
The consent decree, in terms of police accountability, falls right in line with what is necessary for Newark. But also, I think that some of the conditions that we see in Newark happen in other types of cities. It's almost a story of urban America. And I think that if we can handle them in Newark, I think it could be a model for what's possible elsewhere.
Yannick Wood is director of an independent program monitoring Newark's changes. He compares Newark's consent decree process to medicine in that it takes time to make an impact.
How I would liken this is to say, someone was sick and they went to the doctor and they got a course of medication and they got a little bit of the medication and they feel a little bit better, and then they want to stop doing the medication. I think that's kind of where we are as in the consent decree. We're not there yet, and we need to remain vigilant, and we need to continue the process until its completion, so that way we can make sure that we truly transform policing.
So how has that consent decree changed Newark, and in turn, how might the DOJ investigation change Minneapolis? In 2018, 83% of responding Newark residents reported never having a positive interaction with Newark police officers. That fell to 37% by the 2020 survey. But in 2020, half of respondents still felt Newark police treat Black individuals worse than others. O'Hara told me there's no question that the Newark Police Department has changed for the better since the consent decree process began under his leadership. He said, quote, "It's not a question of whether there has been significant cultural change that has been made. Change has been made. It's just how much." Overall, city officials and community leaders I spoke with supported O'Hara and his work. Rick Robinson, a chairman of the Newark Civilian Complaint Review Board, called O'Hara's approach one in a million.
Mr. O'Hara has the ability to bring people together. He is able to, I would say, engage all parties. Minneapolis has to actually embrace him.
To put it in perspective,
what happens next? Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey has said he hopes to have the full city council vote on O'Hara's nomination in early November.
And to make it an entire year with no shots fired.